There we go. And we are live. Hi, Edie.
Exciting.
How are you doing, girl?
I'm alive. It's always a good thing.
Yeah, so for everybody that's going to watch this on the replay, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Blooming Lotus Healing Art, and as you already know, I talk about anything that has to do with spirituality, and of course, I do your oracle card readings, and I'm starting to do something new, which is bring in some of my beautiful spiritual friends to come and talk about their own experiences, and we're just chatting away. So just sit back and relax and enjoy the ride, guys.
Uh,
Thank you so much for coming live. She literally just came live for me like last minute, so I appreciate you, Edie, for coming in.
yeah,
And
I wasn't exactly aware what was going to happen here, so I don't even know what we're talking about.
we are talking about spirituality and the path of spirituality and how that has shaped us. So let me just tell you a little bit about Edie and I. We met each other. I want to say like it's been 4 years ago, right? Has been
2015. 2015
2015.
at the same call center.
Yeah, we were working at a call center, and I was just kind of like lost in the world, and we just kind of met each other. I literally was wearing the same nail polish that she was. And I reached out to her and I was like, I love your nail polish. Oh my God.
I don't even wear nail polish anymore.
Yeah, and I don't even so look at that.
That's in our past. We
Yeah,
just talk about nail
so
polish.
the one thing that I love about Edie, like, and I, is like we've had so many parallels in our lives. Like we've been um I almost feel like we are spiritual sisters, like we've been through so much and so many things that coincide in certain ways. Of course, in our own lives, they're expressed differently. But the fact that
Mhm.
we've experienced the same things, and that's kind of what brings us together. So I'm
Yeah.
really grateful for that,
Well, I
and
think
I'm
it's
really
more
grateful.
it's more than that though. It's the fact that you and I have always accepted each other unconditionally and
Yes,
been able to talk openly about the craziest things possible. Like
I
neither
know.
one of us, we can talk about such crazy things, signs and synchronicities and all these kinds of things and fairies and whatever, and neither one of us will judge the other person as being crazy.
I know,
You
and I
know,
think
so
I think that's what's been such a beautiful experience with our relationship. As our friendship has grown so much. And hi, Audrey. Audrey says hello,
no,
and
I
she
can't
says,
I can't see who's here.
"You can't see." Okay, she
No, is
says,
there like
"Love you, girls."
hi Audrey?
so um so yeah, so it's just one of those things where we've been able to talk about anything and everything under the sun.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it all started with meta painting, right? Like we
Mhm.
all we started with meta painting, which
Well, what
for those.
was even more interesting too. It's like, I mean, that's just kind of been our thing, even because I wasn't spiritual when you and I met, you know.
Yeah, that is true. You're right. Yeah,
But
yeah.
but at the same time, I was never like closed off to anything. I just didn't believe in it, you know. And you were talking about all these things that now I talk about, but I still just listened. I listened to you, and I knew that you were authentically believing everything you believed, and I was cool with that, you know, because I knew it mattered to you. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
so we've always been able to do that, to just talk about stuff just without that layer of like, oh, you're no, I don't know about that, you know. It's like we don't do that to each other.
Right,
You know?
exactly. No, and I think that's the biggest thing that this world needs truly is people connecting from that
Mhm.
heart connection. I think that if we were able to connect more from that heart connection without judging each other, we would be able to
It's
understand each
compassion.
other a lot better,
It's
And
yeah, it's understanding that we're all human. We're all human, and we're all going through something, you know, and nobody's understanding or position in the world is greater than anybody else's. We all have something to learn from each other, you know.
yeah, I agree. I agree. And one of the biggest things that I kept telling her is like we really need to create a podcast and start talking because we have the craziest conversations, and I think they're deep every time we have a conversation. I personally leave elevated, and I feel like you do too, so we
Yeah.
elevate each other, and I think that's so important. And that's sisterhood right there, right? Like
Mhm.
the sisterhood that where we understand each other, we see each other for who we are, and we
Mhm.
respect each other for who we are, and at the same time we encourage each other whenever we see certain patterns. Like I know that you've held me accountable many times, which I'm very grateful for. And sometimes it's uncomfortable, but it's nice to be able to have
Right.
that, you know?
Right.
So it's good to do that. And I think that, you know, the reason why I wanted to come live today with you was because I just feel like this is so valuable for people to come out and show people that this is an important part of our lives. You know, we don't just go to work and go to school and just go home and, you know, and then just rinse and repeat all the time. We need to have those connections with people and search those people who are in that same wavelength and really hone those relationships. And I think that we did that with meta painting. I truly believe that was a huge aspect.
Have you told people what meta painting is?
I haven't. So for those of you who don't know what meta painting is, so this we came up with it back in 2015 from my friend Abdullah. He was leaving to Miami, and he was living behind like a record player and some records, and they were all warped. And then I think you said something, and then also Ingrid, a friend of mine, Ingrid said, "Why don't you paint on the records?" And then you said it too, and I was like, okay, fine. I felt like it was the universe, right? Like telling me.
Well, I had tried painting many years before that, but I just kind of never went back to it. But I always liked the textural feel of what it was like to paint on whatever. And you had mentioned the records, and like, well, why don't we just paint on them? You know?
I know, and I thought that I was like, I just feel like you were like the second person that mentioned it to me, and I was like, okay,
well, we were both in the same position where we were both feeling blocked in our creative flow. And we needed something. We knew we needed something to charge ourselves out of it. And painting, I don't know, just kind of felt like something right, but we were just talking about it at the time, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just kind of came together, and it was crazy how much that changed both of us doing that. Just sitting there in these sessions where you'd have the meditation music going, lighting incense, you know, dim lighting. It's a very healing kind of, just a healing kind of atmosphere. Yeah. And then we would just paint whatever. Sometimes we talked, sometimes we didn't. Sometimes we just sat there in silence, you know, but then we'd talk about whatever. It was a completely open environment. And then we talk about each other's paintings.
Yeah. And that was really cool. That was really cool because, and I think that was one of my favorite things too, looking at each other's paintings and kind of coming up with all these different ideas or perceptions of what we thought it would be. And well, that's the beautiful thing about art. And I think that obviously that was one of the things that connected us, was the fact that we both love art so much and we're both creative people. And of course, that is a huge aspect of our personalities and what we like to do. So, so I don't know, it's just being able to connect with that creative side of each other, and it just deepened everything, right? But yeah, and it's true that I think the atmosphere does make a difference whenever you're if you're creating a space that feels kind of like, I felt, now that I'm looking back to it, I feel like it was like a wound, like we were in this wound and we were in this warm, welcoming, loving environment, just creating and allowing ourselves to release whatever we needed to release. And I think that, and you know what, and that's a key element, I believe, that helped me in my process. And I think that it was also a key element for you, even though you weren't necessarily aware of it at the time, but it was something that was kind of increasing that path for you. It was really pushing you through this path, I feel like, Yeah.
I mean, I had no idea where it was going to go, but I knew that it was, it was allowing me to open things up that I didn't really have the opportunity to do otherwise, because it's hard to find people you can really be in that environment with, who you can really just deeply talk about what's going on inside yourselves and what life is,
Yes.
And when you find that, and then when you're expressing it with a creative flow, things change. Energy changes. Energy moves.
It really does. Energy is it's never stagnant. It's always going to be moving all over the place, and and it's just part. And I think that's how we know that we're alive, right? When we're going through the changes in our lives, even though we don't really want to go through changes because we're used to our certain path or certain behaviors or certain. Just we're like, and then we like this is comfortable, right? I want to stay here. But
comfort is an illusion. Comfort is an illusion. It is temporary. It's always temporary. You will never reach a point where you are comfortable and that's it. You know,
Right.
and once you can stop resisting that and just kind of learn how to flow with the energy that keeps going, I mean, you can have an easier time moving forward, but you can never just get comfortable and sit there and be like, that's my life. It
Yeah,
doesn't happen.
exactly.
It'll go for a little bit, but it's temporary. It's always temporary.
It's always temporary, and it's true. I mean, I've gone through periods of times where, you know, things seem to be going pretty well, and then suddenly just these changes happen, and then I'm pushed forward towards a different path that I wasn't necessarily ready to take.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh my God, like, what is this? And then it's like, welcome to the roller coaster. And I'm
Right. Well, hey, even the meta painting, I mean, we did it for a period of time, and then we went away from it for a while because we had these other things to go through. We came back to it for a tiny bit, but then, you know, it's just it hasn't come back together again, but it still made such a huge difference in our lives. But if we just kept clinging to it, like, oh, I remember the day, oh, I wish I could, you know, be back in that place again. If we did that, we'd always be stuck in the past. We couldn't be in our present moment. We couldn't be in our full power in the present moment.
Exactly.
You know, it's like you've got to allow the past to be the past and understand it had its point, it had its meaning in that point in your life. You know, there was
oh my gosh, that is so true. That is so true. I agree with you. Yes.
And I'm not saying we won't do it in the future. We definitely are going to do it again in the future.
Yeah, of course. But it's, you know, but not clinging on to it. Not clinging on to it so much. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that when I look back, of course, you know, you see the picture, you know, the records back there.
Mine are in my closet right show. I need to put art up. I just moved into my apartment. Well, actually now a month ago.
Almost a month ago.
I'm slow, but eventually I'll have something up.
Yeah. So Stacy says hi. Hi,
Stacy. Hi,
Stacy. Welcome. I'm so glad you guys are tuning in your busy day.
I miss you,
Stacy. So, but yeah, so I think that that when I look back at these records, especially when I started creating this little office for myself, I did not have anything up on the walls except for the painting that I purchased from that amazing artist from Bradenton.
Alfredo, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And he's an amazing artist that's in Bradenton. So, Village of the Arts, from Village of the Arts. And so I had that up, and it's just been a beautiful connection because it's this woman holding a cat, and of course, you know, I have cats. And then so I just felt so connected with her, and she kind of looks like Frida Kahlo, which I love Frida Kahlo. And but
I think that was intentional.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah. And then when I put my paintings up, it was just such a beautiful thing. And I still don't have all of it up. I have so many that are put away because I was painting so much, you know.
Right.
But it was truly a process of integrating myself, of exploring myself, of allowing myself to play around and be in touch with my inner child, and it's just invaluable. It's an invaluable process, and I just wish people gave themselves permission to do that more often.
If anybody can take anything from this, it's that. Give yourself permission to just be, just create, just do something that you think, oh, you know, well, it doesn't pay the bills, it doesn't do this. I mean, just let that go and just do it.
Yes. Yes, because at the end of the day, I think that I don't know where in the process of growing up we decide that we are no longer going to do those things that make us happy, that we're supposed to do the things that we're supposed to do as an adult. I
think it's taught to us. It's not only is it taught to us, it's in the energy around us. You know, it's in the culture, it's in the collective consciousness. It's something we see everywhere around us. You know, especially when you grow up in the United States. It's huge in the United States. This whole, like, you have to be building something. You have to, you know, be an entrepreneur. You have to, like, you know, rise up in a company or whatever you have to do. It's like, if it's not going to make you money, or if you're not going to take whatever it is and try to make money with it, it's like, just let it go. It's not important, you know?
Yeah, that hustle mentality. It's funny. I was watching a video on YouTube from this guy who was talking about the whole self-help industry and how he feels, which I thought it was an interesting point of view that he gave, and I really appreciated the reality check that he gave in regards to how we have this hustle mentality, and it's really honed into the self-help industry, and you know, in those communities per se, we have this thing where we celebrate overworking yourself because that's just what, you know, that's what you're supposed to do. But I mean, when do we give ourselves the opportunity to rest? You know, why is rest such a bad thing? You know what, you know, even so one of the things that he talked about was, you know, even in let's just put it in a religious text, he mentioned, you know, God, even, you know, on the Bible, he says at the end of the seventh day, he actually rested on the seventh day, right?
Right.
So it's like, okay, so there you go. So we you know, if even God says it on his on the scripture, then why, you know, and this is not only on that scripture, it's other scriptures too. You know, rest is important. So so I feel like we've lost we lost track in that regard.
I don't think we value ourselves at all. Personally, we're commodities. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh my gosh, you're so right.
It's like when that is the mentality that's out there, that people, you know, what's your value? What are you worth? You know, and measure it by dollar signs. That's what you get. You know, you get this kind of emptiness.
And I think that's the reason why so many people find themselves whenever you lose certain. I'm going to give you an example with my own experience. When I was going through the process of growing my career in photography, I put a lot of my value into what I was doing and how was I perceived by others. So because I had to, and the perception was more about, is my portfolio good enough for you? Is this good enough for you, or whatever? And then when I didn't get that feedback, and the feedback was negative, it really impacted me in such a deep level that I felt like I was worthless. I was worthless. So if my job wasn't good, or if I didn't do a good job at something, then I was worthless. And that's not true. What you do has nothing to do with your worth at all. Like, I mean, you're worthy regardless of what you do or don't do. Even when you're resting, you know?
You with your mantra, your work is not your worth.
Yes.
You told me that during an Akashic record reading that you did.
And it came up, and
that
funny,
has been everything. That just simple mantra, your work is not your worth. Because I was dealing with that a lot as a tax preparer. You know, during tax season, I was really struggling to take care of myself, because, you know, you feel like, oh gosh, I got to get this done and I got to get that done, and I was tying my own self-value into it. So I was having these breakdowns just at the thought of even getting like a massage or something. I mean, this is, you know, pre-COVID shutdown, but still, it's like I remember having like a mental breakdown over that. Why am I having a mental breakdown over just taking a relaxation day? You know, I couldn't understand it, but it's like that mantra means like everything, because it's so true.
It is true. We so like if you listen to the Eastern type mentality when it comes down to the spiritual teachers, they really talk about meditation, and meditation really truly is it's a way of resting. It's a way of resting your body, your mind, and
your mind especially.
Your mind, and really reconnecting with yourself. And it's interesting to me because I've had people tell me, oh, well, why would I meditate? I have so many things to do. That's exactly why you have to meditate. You know what I mean? Like, you need to rest in order for you to keep going. And I think that, like you said, the lack of valuing ourselves, for who we truly are, and not really understanding the value of just being, just allowing ourselves to be, not to do, but just be, just being in the moment, and just allowing yourself to just connect with who you are in every single aspect of who you are. You know, that this is the reason why I'm so passionate about it, because I just think that we need more of that. You know, if I can make meditation go viral, that would be the amazing. I mean, trust me, this world will go into a better place. You know,
you know what? It's a slow process, but I see it more and more and more. People opening up to the idea of it, or trying it, or seeing it introduced into schools, or whatever the case might be. You know, I mean, obviously things are a little different now, but I think we're going to see that more and more over the next few years. You're going to see people trying to go inward a lot more and trying to understand who they are, you know, what's going on inside of them, as opposed to just what's going on outside of them.
Exactly. And I think that the whole COVID thing, a lot of the spiritual teachers that I've heard, they talk about a lot about the fact that this is a sacred pause. This is a sacred pause for us to really go within, and it's really generating a lot of. It's interesting. So this week, I watched a video from this girl. Because we had this, of course, this issue with. God bless him, with the man who passed away under the police, and one of many, of course. And and of course there's a lot of uproar everywhere online about this, for good reason. And so this girl, she has this YouTube channel that it's all about, let's just say, it's just like funny videos and things like that. And she made a blackface. She didn't know at the time that it was, I guess, a blackface thing, because she made herself a little darker, like more bronzed up. And wore a wig or whatever. So anyway, so she put out a video apologizing profusely for this, and I just saw so much sorrow within her. Like I truly felt like she really felt really bad about it, and she shut down. And she specifically said, "I am putting private, or I'm eliminating the videos that no longer are uplifting people." And I just thought about that. And I said, and this is just recent. This happened like last week that she posted this. Yeah. And I thought, oh my God, like people are waking up, and a lot of people are not even realizing, but this is a process. It's a process of waking up. It's a process of awakening. It's a process of becoming more empathetic towards each other, of understanding that our actions affect others as well. Our words affect others as well. Absolutely. And it's happening, and I just thought it was such a beautiful thing. Of course, I'm not happy that she was sad. Of course, she's going through her grief and her own process of processing the fact, her lesson, because that's a lesson, really, truly. But I just thought, wow, like this whole COVID and this whole, Black Lives Matter movement, all of this is really pushing so many things forward, and helping people, realize what's happening, and what needs to change, so that way we can become more compassionate towards each other, more kind towards each other, more aware towards our actions and our words. So so that sacred pause is important, and it's funny because everybody's at home, and a lot of people are going crazy right at home, and trying to figure out what the heck they're going to do, and but at the same time is the fact that that we have this huge opportunity of waking up, of moving forward, of really giving each other and I think, to be honest with you, that this is the time for us in this, that we've been in this path and we see things a little clearer, that for us to really, show, hey, listen, this is it. This is what's happening. And it's time to move forward, because this is the new earth. We're going towards creating a new environment for ourselves. And of course, we come to this planet to wake up. And we were just talking about this, right? It's not an easy path. You're gonna feel upset. You're gonna feel the anger. You're gonna feel the pain. You're gonna feel all of these emotions. You're gonna feel all of it. We're here to experience the human experience.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what's happening right now in a huge way. You all of that anger, all that stuff that's been kind of suppressed, overlooked, pushed down, it's all coming to the surface. And whoever has the loudest voice is who's dominating the dialogue at the time, but there's this deep pain in people from being devalued for so long, and it's like now people are starting to be like, wait a second, I do have worth. I do have a voice. And sometimes it goes overboard, because when you get so angry and you haven't been able to express it, sometimes it comes out way extreme. So we're seeing a lot of extreme stuff come up right now, but it's a balancing. It's an overall balancing. We'll see it all balance in its own way, but it's the result of just people feeling so so oppressed, so devalued for so long, you know,
Mm.
and now they're like, no, I deserve more. They're learning their
Right.
worth. They're
That
learning
is
what their
so
worth is,
true.
you
Oh
know?
my goodness. I love that. I love that. You're so right. And yes, it's the ancestral too. We have to
Mhm.
realize that this is ancestral um, pain that we're processing. And this is the thing is that we signed up for this. We came to this planet to experience this, and we are capable of doing it. We're capable of processing it. It's just a matter of allowing ourselves to flow, like I became aware of so many ancestral issues within my own family that I am processing and I am releasing and I am, finally integrating within myself, to the point where I know that moving forward, if I do decide to continue my lineage, I know that the next woman, the next man that comes into the lineage, it's going to be improved, because I mean it is a
Mhm.
known fact that we carry information from our family in the DNA, right? So
Mhm.
all that information is not only biological, it's spiritual
Mhm.
too, and we have to.
Mhm.
There's so much that we don't understand when it comes down to science and spirituality. There's so many mysteries that I'm a lifelong learner, right? I'm a student,
Mhm.
and to me it's fascinating
Mhm.
when we discover more things, and when we have even science kind of pointing out certain things that we kind of knew, or maybe they were mentioned to us in the past, but we weren't necessarily accepting it because we needed some sort of proof, which is understandable. Some people need the proof, and that's okay. But spirit, the universe will provide that proof for you, for
Mhm.
for whoever it needs it. So which is really cool to me. Um, I'm very lucky to the fact that I just had proof from the beginning since I was a kid. I had
Mhm.
the experiences with my mom and being able to see her spirit, and I thought I was crazy. And if I tell this to anybody, I mean anybody out there, they will think I'm crazy, right? But truly, these experiences just opened my mind
Yeah.
so much that I just couldn't close it up. Like I couldn't let it go. Like it was just like I know there's something else, and it's just because it's there. And I feel like it was just, and then I'm sure you experienced some things too, right? And then
Yeah, I don't, I
and
don't, I don't, I don't recall anything from that young age that I would specifically say was of another origin, that didn't seem like of the earth. That I don't really recall anything like that until maybe my teenage years, and then I started getting into reading tarot cards, and actually the Ouija board I think was probably one of my big things where I first started like connecting. And but the thing is, like it always freaked me out. It freaked me out for the longest time. So I've had several different spiritual things that have happened and different connections and awakenings, but I always shut them down. I'd always shut them back down. The only thing I didn't is I've always read tarot cards since I was probably like 14. Other than that, I would always shut everything else down. But it's also because with the tarot cards, I always read them in a more psychological way,
hmm,
as opposed to predicting the future. I always saw
yeah.
them as more a deep internal focus of understanding. So I guess that's why I was always able to stick with them. Um, but yeah, but it wasn't. I mean, seriously, I'm 47 years old, and it really didn't hit me in any continuous, long-term big way until I was 45. So,
Wow.
I mean, sometimes it takes a long time to really
Yeah.
get to that point where you're ready to walk that path consistently and feel comfortable with yourself inside of it. A lot of people get caught up in that too, the age thing. That's something that, I mean, I've dealt with. I know a lot of people deal with. You start things when you're older, you rechange your whole entire life when you're older. People are like, I'm too old to do this, I'm too old to do that. That's a big thing a lot of people deal with. But, if you're alive, then you're not too old to do anything, okay?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You've got to get out of that mentality. That thing's ridiculous. It's like we always can change our path at any point in time. You're never stuck on a path. You just got to be bold. You got to be able to go into something you're afraid of and just do it. And you'll find that once you do that and you release that energy, all these other things start to happen and open that maybe you weren't expecting. But you've got to take that step and step through the fear, step through that energy that's blocking you, saying no, you can't do this and you can't do that.
And I love that you're saying that, because it's true. I mean, age is just a number, right? I mean, truly, the experience, the experience of spiritual, or what is said, that time doesn't exist in the spiritual world. And it's so true. And you know what? And it doesn't matter when you get connected. And you're right. What matters is that everybody. Okay, so let me just say this. I feel like it's just a matter of your own path. You have to go through your path. And I think we get caught up, especially us as humans. I don't know, we tend to do this, but we want people to experience what we experience as well. But we got to remember that people are going to experience, they're walking their own path. They have their own set of lessons that they have to learn. They have their own set of things that they have to learn. And we've got to remember this. And I think that's the reason why we have.
It goes both ways too, because we also judge our own path by other people's paths.
My God, yes.
Just like wanting other people to have our path and our experience, we judge ourselves by what they do. And either way, that's looking outside. It's always looking for external validation when you do that. And you can't, because your path is your own. No matter how crazy or wild your path is, no matter how much you can't see it, and anybody else around you doesn't invalidate it.
That is so true. Oh my gosh, Edie, it's funny that you're saying that, because I think that you've been a huge. So for me, you've been that person who's reminded me of that many times, which I'm so grateful for you for that. And you're one of the people that have inspired me to start this whole thing, right? Between this and having your support, your unconditional support, and having the unconditional support of my boyfriend, and having the people. But sometimes, I mean, I've experienced that where I'm comparing myself to others. Like even I had to experience with my own family telling me, oh, well, you're not worthy of speaking about spirituality because you're not skinny and you don't look like a hippie. What? And I'm like, I am a hippie at heart, and I don't need to be skinny, And it was just like, and it was pretty intense. But it was interesting because I think that I was ready to start this path now because I was strong enough to really withstand those type of conversations with people and understand where they're coming from, that they're seeing through their own lens of their own judgment. And it's really not about me, right?
Exactly. It's never about you. It's never about you.
It's never about me. It's always about that reflection. And of course, sometimes we can get caught up in it. I've done that before, and it's just part of the deal. I mean, it's part of the process, but always going back and remembering, always going back, or going within, or even seeking out somebody that you trust that will give you a more neutral perspective, and then going back within and honing that skill of that strength, that power within you.
That's one of those big things that I value with you, and I know you value with me, is like when we go through this spiral and we're going through it, we can always lean on each other and come back to grips with what we say, with centering ourselves. It gets us back to centering ourselves, because sometimes you can go way off in the emotions and get really cloudy, and sometimes it's difficult to see your way out of it, and sometimes you just need a guide, to help you get back to your center.
I agree, and so that, I think that's where community comes. It's an important part of it. I think that we all need to feel like we belong somewhere, that we vibe with other people, that we connect with other people, that we can have conversations with people who understand us in that deeper level. And I truly value that. That's been a huge thing for me, because it can get lonely in the spiritual path. It can get really lonely, especially because a lot of people are not going to understand you. They're not going to understand where you're coming from, because they're still in that external world, in the world, right? They're not going within, and they're not understanding this.
It's not always their path. We go back to everybody has their own path. Not everybody has a path of spirituality. It's just not a thing. One of my best friends is my ex, and he's definitely not. He hates my path. He hates my spiritual path. But you know what? Wow. He's a consistent person. He's a very consistent person, and he's a caring person. And so it's like, when you can accept somebody, even if they're not on the same path as you, and kind of see where they're coming from, and learn how to communicate to show them where you're coming from, you can still gain a lot from people who just don't understand you whatsoever, but they still have something valuable to offer inside. You know?
Exactly. That is so true. That is so true. Sometimes I struggle with that. Especially if I'm not understood, I kind of like I get taken aback sometimes, and especially even with my own family. Like if they don't understand it, then it hurts deeply. Like, why they don't understand? And I go in that mode.
Well, it depends if it's a
And then
lack
I'll
of
go,
understanding with judgment. Sometimes that's harder.
yeah, it's a little harder. Yeah.
Especially if you're wanting that external validation. When you're
Yes.
wanting that external validation, it makes it way harder. You take it more personally. You know?
Yes, and that's what, especially with my own mom. You know, I struggle with that a lot. I struggle with the validation, with wanting to be that good girl, with wanting, you know, breaking away from that pattern. It's taking me years. I mean, I'm talking years of you know, the people pleasing, and you know, and I still have to catch myself. I still have to catch myself and be like, no, girl, you got to say no, girl.
It's
You
a
got to,
muscle.
you know.
You know what?
And
It's an emotional muscle. You're muscle building. You know,
yeah,
you're doing your
yes.
spiritual muscle building. By every time you go back into it, you come back out. That's what it is. It's like, you know, doing a set, doing a rep.
Yeah, exactly right. You're like, okay, I did too many sets. Let me take a break.
Exactly. Sometimes just gotta go away from it for a little bit and rest.
Exactly.
Rest that
Let's go
muscle.
away, and I'll see you later. I'll talk to you later. And I've created that. I mean, I'm really proud of the fact that I've created for myself a support system to where I can always go back and recharge myself, and then go back out and say, okay, I can handle this now, you know, because it can get overwhelming, you know. Especially, I was talking to a friend of mine, she's my friend Claudia that lives in Germany. She just moved to Germany, and we were talking about, she just had a child, and she was telling me about how there's certain practices whenever we were growing up that were used, like letting the child, you know, scream and cry when they're little, and all that. And apparently they've done studies, and they've realized that doing that creates a sense of anxiety and depression later on adulthood.
Yeah.
And she was just telling me, this is the reason why we're so messed up, girl. And I was like, oh my God, I never thought about it. But, you know, of course she's seeing it through that lens, because right now she's putting all of her energy into her child. So she's trying to make sure that she does the best that she can, and give her child the best, you know, what she wasn't given, if that makes sense. Right. Which is, of course, that's amazing. That's a beautiful thing. That's the beautiful thing about parenthood, is that you get the opportunity to redo or rewrite the story if you can. And so anyway, so it's kind of interesting to me, because we do have a lot of those patterns that come from the past that we don't even know about, right? And then we kind of stumble upon them, and we're like, why is this coming from? So it's always good to have, you know, those support systems. Like for me, I've went through therapy. I've done EMDR. I mean, I've been reading books. I've been researching. I've been praying. I've been going to church. I've been going to, you know, I've been meditating. I've been unplugging. I've done everything that I can to figure out where those roots came from, and try to love those roots into healing, right? Because that's the whole point. The point is not to look at the roots and be like, why are you here? You got to be like, hey, you know, I love you. Let me try to reparent you to where you need to be, so that way we can come back.
You can't yell things away. You know, you
cannot.
You can't take things away. It doesn't work.
No,
they just get stronger.
No. Yeah, they just get stronger, and the more you resist, what is it? What you resist persists.
Yeah.
So yeah. So the more you resist it persists, and that's just the way it is. But so hey, listen, we've been talking for about 38 minutes. I'm so grateful. See, I told you we could just jam, girl.
I guess so. You were right.
So for everybody that's watching right now, thank you so much. If you're watching this on the replay, I appreciate you. Leave a comment and let us know how you like this conversation. If you want more of this type of conversation, let me know through the comments, or DM me, however you want to let me know. And if you love what you see, then click that little heart button.
Well, one little thing, you called this live chat with musician Edie Marshall, but we didn't actually talk about music. If you want to visit my website, it's thesleepersopera.com.
Okay, there you go.
We didn't talk about it.
No. So, is there anything you would like people to know, or about you that you would like them to find out?
Oh, that's such a big question. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
I don't know. Like,
you can visit my You can visit my website. Actually, I started. I mean, I do regular, more singer-songwriter indie kind of music, but I also started doing meditation music. Actually, part of our meta painting sessions, I started trying to do my own meditation music for our stuff, and now I have some music that's out with an app. Echo Sync, it's now called. Echo Sync it's a meditation app that this amazing sound healer, Lindy Romez, put together. So there's a link to it in my website if you want to go check that app out too.
And I'll put it down also if you send me the link, I'll put it also on the comments. So that way they know. I'll put it on the comments as well. So for anybody, and I'll put it on the description too for the video on, if you're watching this from YouTube. We are streaming on YouTube and Facebook at the same time. So I will be putting that information for Edie if you want to find out more about her music and also about the app. Yes, the meditation app, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. I'll have to have Lindy come one day and talk. Oh my God.
That'd be awesome.
That'll be amazing to have her over. So, well, so thank you so much, Edie, for joining me today. I appreciate you. And for those of you who watched and stayed all the way through the 40-something minutes, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
This is small time for our conversations.
This is really short. Very short, y'all. We can talk for hours, okay?
Gosh.
All right. Well, love you so much. And
love you.
Guys, I'll see you guys on Friday for Oracle readings, guys. Take care.
Bye.